it's our second show, and April is somewhere fighting crime or something at the moment, I believe.
We think she's
April's quite a mysterious character, isn't she? So she may join us at some point. So what have you been up to then, Christelle? Like, let's start with that question. Have you been doing anything exciting in the last few days?
I keep having Zoom meetings, and every time I have a Zoom meeting, someone inevitably asks, so what have you been doing? And we all start laughing our heads off because we just look at each other. We're creating YouTube videos of cooking, or we're contemplating the world, or we're trying a new stout, or
yeah, but I mean, you can learn lots of things online just at the moment. I mean, I'm sure you probably couldn't do something like learning pottery, really, because you wouldn't have unless you've got a potter's wheel that's been lying around. I mean, I think in some ways this is quite good for society, because lots of items that people would have had knocking around, but they bought this particular tool or item, and it's been sitting there and they never got around to using it. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe that potter's wheel I had in the corner, I can actually now use this time to learn how to use that previously useless item for some useful purpose. Oh, we've got April. Woohoo!
Hi, April, come on in.
Please.
Hello.
Hi, April.
Hey. Sorry about that, guys. How are you? How's the audio? I still never got a chance to work on any of that, but how is it?
You sound good.
I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so that's good.
Tim was just asking me what I've been up to, and we were kind of laughing about what we could possibly be up to, staying home and trying new things, or not trying new things, or Zooming with friends. April, what have you been up to? We think you're secretly Batwoman, or
I'm actually a private investigator. Yeah, I've just been doing, the things to keep me busy. I'm surprised, actually, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of, other than the pandemic, the loss, the fear, the angst, all of that, I wish that would go away, obviously, and pray for all of those impacted and for each other and that sort of thing. But I'm kind of loving being at home. I'm one of those people who is always juggling and always busy and having to drive in traffic. You're California, so I'm kind of loving it. I'm baking. I started a garden. I'm just doing all sorts of stuff, to keep me busy. I do dance parties every evening. At the end of the day, I've been doing that for years, though. That's nothing new.
Zoom? Do you do a Zoom dance party? Or is
I don't, but I've been thinking about it. It's kind of funny because, you guys probably don't know. There's a lot about me. My husband jokingly says, I've been everything but an astronaut, right? And it's just because I've always been so ambitious. But as a hobby, I'm a dancer. So I've been dancing for years and performing, and I've been in some TV shows and some films. I love to dance. And I feel that dancing gets you out of your mindset. It can change your mood, the music, the lyrics, and everything. So I just do it by myself at the end of every day, somewhere around 4-ish, 4:30. If I'm not busy, I put on the music I love, and I get back to what I enjoy. Are you guys dancers? Because Tim looks like he could bust a move.
Tim, are you doing TikTok dancing or anything? What are you doing with?
I used to dance. I used to do salsa for a bit. I did that for about 18 months or so. Well, not continuously. I wasn't like on the. I was doing lessons for that. The trouble is my hearing. I just couldn't hear like the timbre in the music, so I knew the moves, but I couldn't quite do them at the right times. I do like dancing though in general, but yeah, I haven't done it for a while. I need to get back into doing some sort of. I wouldn't really want to do classic ballroom dancing per se, though. Maybe I'm getting to that kind of age now and I should be doing ballroom dancing. But I did like Cuban salsa. I'd like to try tango or something like that at some point.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You dating anybody, Tim? Anybody fun?
No. Well, I mean, the bloody
Is that you, Christelle?
What?
I said, is that you, Christelle?
Are we doing the tango? Is that what we're asking?
Yeah. Are you guys going to be doing the tango anytime soon?
Are we going to tango?
I don't think it's possible on Zoom.
If you guys can pull that off, this will be amazing.
This is what I do with music. This is, you know what, I am. If there was an award for best karaoke, car karaoke, that would be me. Best car karaoke,
I see it.
dancing. So turn the music on, turn a little gospel on, turn a little pop on, or Disney princess music. I turn that on, and I'm like, I could win an award with that. That's about as far as my dancing goes.
What is Disney princess music then?
Disney princess music. You know, like
that would also be interesting. Do it. Definitely do it. I will follow you on TikTok. That music is good though.
It is. I love it. I mean, no matter what it is, just I was listening to Radio Disney since my kids were little, and I still want to listen to. I can't find Radio Disney anymore, but I love the. I know it's just it's my heart. I'm like.
Are you a regular Disneyland attendee then? I know the Californian people, or is that somewhere you can't go because you're banned for contractual reasons?
Yeah,
Disney shut down. Everything shut down. Yeah.
Well, not now, obviously, but I mean in kind of like, like, would you be going to Disneyland every year or so, or is it kind of like that's too Disney-fied? Or whatever.
April, are you an annual pass holder, April? Because you're closer to Disneyland than I am, I think.
No, I'm not. I'm not really. Okay, I'm going to confess something here that might have people throwing eggs at me. I am not a fan of Disneyland.
Okay.
I don't do roller coasters. I've been there twice. I love the fireworks and all of that. I'm not into the whole thing. I know it sounds so weird, you know, being from California, but I'm glad I'm here. I've been able to go. It's just not my cup of tea.
What are you? Do you like any of
Everybody's stunned. They don't know what to say.
No, are you like Magic Mountain or Knott's Berry Farm, or would you prefer to go to the mountains and go camping? What is your?
Yeah, I don't really do a lot of camping, but I mean, I love those kind of things for recreation. I have camped. I'm kind of okay not doing that. Really, but I've done it. But yeah, I guess I kind of like, you know, I love animals. I do love going to the mountains. I grew up that way. A couple of times a year, we went up and stayed in a cabin for, you know, a couple of days at a time. I enjoy that. I enjoy the ocean. I love, you know, traveling when we can, you know, especially right now we can't. But yeah, I'm just not really, it's interesting. Some would say I'm probably a little boring by most standards. I love music. I love live bands. Love, you know, biker bars and pubs.
Do you like a good scout?
In a long time. I haven't been there in a long time. Last time I did it was actually in San Diego, my husband and I. But yeah, I know it's so weird because I love being outdoors during spring and summer and all of that, but I just don't do the amusement parks. Yeah. What do they have out there in the UK, Tim? What do you guys do there? What are your amusement parks?
Well, they haven't got any massive ones. The biggest one's called Alton Towers, which is kind of in the middle of the country, which is just basically roller coasters and stuff. We got like Legoland and there's the Harry Potter World of Adventures.
Harry Potter is good. That's
which
good.
is about 5 miles away from where I grew up, and yet I've never been there. So it obviously wasn't there when I was growing up because I'm slightly older than Harry Potter, believe it or not.
That was me.
We had a comment from Rachel LMB saying hola. So that's the only comment I see, but I'm not trying to show on that StreamYard. I also noticed that we've got several sad emojis on the reactions, as well as like a heart and we've got a heart, a like, and a sad emoji, and I don't know if that's 5 sad emojis. So we've already managed to put everybody off on show number 2.
Give us a heart if you like
no.
Disneyland. There you go.
Wait, people are saying that about my comment. I told you it was going to be. Told you I was controversial.
It's okay.
Well, you can't basically relate one one comment to the. We'll have to watch the replay and see when it came up the sad emoji.
Right.
Well,
So,
I'm not.
I would
anti, just to say I'm not anti. I'm just kind of like when I last went to Disneyland, I was more of like a night person. I enjoyed this, and I do love the kiddie rides. I'm not gonna lie. Don't do roller coasters, but I'm not anti at all. It's just not my thing.
Well, I mean,
I have friends who have yearly passes.
Yeah, some of your best friends like Disney.
Well, I have a question for you. I have a question for both of you, and people viewing can answer this as well. Because we're stuck at home, I like to play make-believe. I like to dream. so dream with me for a second. If you could fly anywhere tomorrow in the entire world, where would you go and why? And I'd want to hear commenters, our viewers in the comments as well. Where would you go? I know, Tim, you might have a goal of possibly traveling to 50 states. Tell us where you go, Tim. I don't want to answer.
Yeah, he's got some good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it's kind of I am trying to visit all 50. I should have said this in the last one, actually. It's like it's a major project of mine to try and visit all 50 states before I'm 50 years old, and I'm 47.
I love that, by the way. Love that.
Yeah, and I've done. I visited like quite a lot last year. I think I visited like 12 states or something ridiculous like that. I'm losing track now in my mind. I think I've visited 22 states now, because I visited Arizona, as you can see from the T-shirt. I've been trying to wear a T-shirt. So last time I wore an Atlanta T-shirt because I visited Georgia last.
What happens when I do this? It does work. Sorry, guys. Sorry, viewers. You're kind of learning as
it makes you really tall. We look really tall, and Christelle looks like.
You know what? I'm always this height. There's nothing I can do.
But yeah, I mean, the places I want to visit. So I want to get to Denver soon to do Colorado, because Colorado is a nice little state that does. I can then do the east to west properly on the states I've visited. I've done north to south, but that's quite easy to do. It's the east to west is the one I haven't yet. I haven't got a little map all the way across from east to west. So I could do Colorado, or I think I could do Oklahoma. Oklahoma would do the same. So, but I mean, it's more in Denver than in Oklahoma. But actually, a lot of the time, the more obscure states are more interesting than you think. Like somewhere like Boise in Idaho. Boise is a lovely place to visit.
I heard that.
So yeah, I mean, you don't know what a place is necessarily like, and I've also learned that through visiting all these states how different parts of the US are, and how little people in the South like people in the North, and vice versa. And on the East Coast, West Coast, change is quite different as well.
Oh, sorry, there's a little bit of a delay there. Sorry about that.
You asked me a question, I couldn't hear it because I was talking on top of you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, since you've been here, what are some things that you've noticed about us here?
Well, the stereotypical thing is people on the West Coast are a lot less kind of time, and they're much more relaxed than people on the East Coast. In general, well, I mean, again, I haven't been to too much of the southern part of the eastern seaboard, so people in North and South Carolina might be different. But so it may be an urban rural thing as well, but certainly people in LA are a lot more relaxed about timing and stuff than people in New York. And you arrange to meet somebody in California, they might turn up around quarter an hour either side. In like New York, they're more likely to actually turn up on time. So, but then again, I think people on the East Coast tend to be a lot more uptight about and more anxious about things. So Yeah, in the Midwest, people are really friendly in the Midwest. Midwest is kind, and it's also interesting to me the architecture, because I kind of thought that there would be like East Coast architecture, then different architecture for different parts of the US. But you go to the mid somewhere like Kansas City, it's just a mix of East Coast architecture and West Coast architecture, and it's kind of like it's a bit odd. It's kind of
Wow.
like doing the kind of LA style sort of building style and the Eastern Coast one. So that's something that surprised me as well.
Interesting.
April, so Tim kind of gave us a little bit of his background with traveling, and he's traveled the world, and as we can tell, he's from England. April, where would you go if you could fly somewhere tomorrow, or where has been your favorite place that you've traveled already, and why? Kind of
Yeah. If I could, I've been to a couple places, but if I could go anywhere tomorrow, we were planning to go to Italy. And I've been wanting to go to Italy for, probably, it's an interesting story. Like way back before I met my husband, I was dating an Italian actually. And it was interesting because I just love the food and, all of the stuff that goes with it. And I like any place that's kind of a natural laid back. We're laid back here, but the way people live in Italy is very different than us. And so I was planning on going. And then when I broke up, we were planning on going. And then when we broke up, it like occurred to me I could do this on my own. So I was planning to go, and then I met my husband who'd been there several times, and so he said, well, why don't we go? And so we've been kind of planning on doing that. So I would go there. Why? Just because I want to see it. I love photography. I think there's some beautiful places that in history to photograph, even though some of them have been seen. I would particularly love to stay in a villa somewhere, like maybe in Tuscany. I'm not interested in, I don't want to sleep like in a hostel or anything, but I don't necessarily want to go to a big hotel. I'd like to just have see what it's like to kind of live there like the people for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, what part of Italy? Because I mean, I've been to quite a few places in Italy, and they're all lovely. They're all worth visiting. But was it like Rome, or was it Tuscany, sort of Pisa, Florence, places like that?
And then Tuscany, and then my husband had some stuff, places that he thought I'd love. Some of it is probably Rome because they have the old, what's left there, that sort of thing. But for me, it was like, even though Tuscany is kind of off, by itself a little bit, I kind of like some of that, just that laid back vibe. And I'm open to seeing anything over there, to be honest with you. I just wanted to be able to go there, but I knew that I wanted to stay kind of in what I call a countryside somewhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, Italy's not that big by US standards. I mean, most of Europe isn't, to be honest. I mean, you can get a train from like Rome to Florence in a couple of hours, so it's like.
That's what my husband said. Yeah, that's what he.
Yeah, I mean, what surprised me about Rome, and this is slightly true with London, but it's way more true with Rome than anywhere else I've been, is that something that in the US would have a gift shop next to it because it's like 200 years old or something.
Okay.
Like Rome is literally full of antiquity, so to the point where they have like Roman columns just with no signage, no kind of like, and they're not even on the map on any of the maps as like a tourist thing, or they have like a fresco up on the wall. It's just because there's just so much stuff in Rome that is just interesting touristy thing. You can wander around and like the streets, and there's just like old columns and things. Like it's like if you've ever been to Boston in the United States. Because Boston, they've got like Paul Revere's house, which is one of the revolutionaries ones. But for a British person going to visit it, it's like, well, this is just a house. It was just like a 17th century or 18th century house. And I'm like, you go around it and it's like, well, it's just an old house. Because it's like, there are lots of old houses in the UK around, well, usually it's like, but it's not that different to a Victorian house in the UK, which are like still loads of them around. So, and that is the kind of thing that in Italy wouldn't be like, oh, it's just a house. But in the US, it's kind of like it's got a gift shop next to it. You have to pay for admission, and it's like $3 to wander around this guy's old house, and it's like, oh, this is very uninspiring from a European perspective.
And what about you, Christelle?
Where I know that this is the question I threw out there, kind of like dreaming. We're in our houses. Let's dream where we want to go, right? I haven't traveled the world very much. I did live. I've lived in Los Angeles. I've lived in Portland, Oregon, and I've lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota. I've traveled, of course, to Tijuana. My big trip down there. Which, Tim, have you been there? Have you been?
No, I haven't. I need to do. Well, actually, at some point, if I keep going to social media marketing world, I will visit. It's cheaper apparently to fly to Tijuana, and they've got this private terminal, private bridge over to the US where you can go. Well, I don't know if you've done that. So you can fly into the airport and then go for this, pay like $30 or whatever, and go across the bridge over to San Diego, over to the US, and then get a cab to San Diego. So I might do that at some point. But no, I've never been on a day trip there or done anything. It always seems too much effort.
Take me with you. I've been to Canada, but my dream is to get overseas, and I have a list. I mean, I can start listing where I want to go. I want to.
We've got like 10 minutes left of the show, so don't take too long.
Tim, I'm coming to visit you in London. Prepare. Of course. We're going together, April. Let's plan a trip. Of course, England I want to get to, but Greece is high on my list. Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam. I love history. So I want to go places where I can dive into the culture and the history. And of course, I love food. So I want to go and I want to sit with people. I want to chat with them. I want to meet them. And I want to eat the food of whoever's preparing it and just try out foods from around the world. So in my former life, I was a foodie. I used to get to travel throughout San Diego and try out different restaurants that just opened. So I still have that passion a little bit, but I would like to do it around the world. So that's my.
Why did you stop doing that? Because it sounded like you kind of enjoyed doing that. Was that because you lost the job, or it's like you got banned from every restaurant in San Diego?
I got banned. That was bad. Don't bring her back.
I didn't know.
No, okay. So with being a foodie, you get invited based on your influence. And so because a real big, who's the biggest influencer who gets invited. And I actually met some really cool people. I have some really good friends from Foodie World. I still have them. Hi, James. James Sopp. Yay.
Hey, James.
The truth is I kind of stopped when I started eating more plant-based. And so I say I'm about 99% plant-based. And then also with the influence, I started asking myself, what is influence and what does that mean? And there, as you both know, behind the scenes, what is true influence? And I kind of got a little bit shy from what that actually means. You get invited to restaurants and you're expected to post certain things, and I don't like to post bad reviews. So there was a whole lot of things that went along with that. But a lot of it had to do with once I went plant-based, I decided to just start exploring those options on my own. And if we go around the world, a lot of cuisine is vegetarian, vegan, and plant-based. So one of my favorite restaurants here in San Diego is actually Ethiopian. And they have some Muzita Bistro. I'm going to give him a shout out because I absolutely love him. His mom came straight from Ethiopia. Amazing home cooked food. But yeah, there's a lot of options when you go vegan or vegetarian or plant-based. So that's kind of a long discussion as to why I stopped doing the foodie thing. I still have my friends, but yeah, I decided to kind of venture into other worlds. And then of course, part of that too is working full-time and having a family. I just don't really have the time to go to the invites that I get or used to get. So, but yeah, it was fun. It was it was fun while it lasted. So have you ventured into that world at all, April or Tim? foodie world, or do you have favorite restaurants you like to go to?
I don't really go to that many restaurants at all.
Really
I mean, I'm always struggling when people come over and ask me to go to restaurants in London. So it's kind of like, oh yeah. But yeah, I mean, I do like restaurants and things, but it's not something I do much at the moment. So I mean, that's one of the reasons why I like to know people in places abroad when I visit them, because then you get taken to people's favorite restaurants or interesting places. Sometimes kind of ironically, like I've been to various US burger chains, ironically being taken there by people because they're like, what do you think about White Castle or one of these kind of like really sort of very American style kind of takeaway places. So that's interesting.
April, what's your world of food, or do you like to travel?
I'm sorry, the audio is just so bad for some reason. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you, yeah. Can you hear us?
It's really, I can hear you, but I can't, a lot of interruptions, so the audio is not so good coming in. I was gonna, since you can hear me, I'm gonna ask Tim, one of the things I was saying to him, because I've been following you a while, is that when you were here in different places, you were staying with people. Were those people that you knew previously before you came to the state, or did you meet these people in social media?
Well, I've only ever stayed with somebody once when I've stayed in the US. But I like to go to places where I know people already, so they'll like to take me out or whatever. I don't usually, but this was Beth Feldman and her husband, and I met Beth several years ago, but I did know her mainly from social media. She was on the volunteer staff at Social Media Marketing World. She's based in Arizona, so that's why I ended up staying with them, and especially because I kind of inadvertently screwed up and I've done this a few times on my travels, because if I paid for a hotel that week I was in Phoenix, in Scottsdale, it would have been like $500 a night because it was spring training, which is like in baseball, they have half of the teams go to Phoenix and half of them go to Florida in that March period. And it's like all of the baseball fans take over all of the hotels and everything. So I kind of happened to go to Phoenix just when it was like peak time. And I had no idea. It was just I was going to Social Media Marketing World the week later. So I booked flights to Phoenix. And they were like, yeah, you better stay with us because it's going to cost you a fortune. So that's kind of how I ended up there in the end.
You look like you had some nice times.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so much, for me, it's helped me enormously kind of knowing people's social media and visiting them, because I'm not somebody who's a particularly confident single traveler. I know some people love traveling on their own. But if I travel on my own and I don't know anybody in the place, I'll just end up at like Starbucks or McDonald's or like all of the default kind of places because of shyness. But if I know people even vaguely on social media or another way, and I can meet them, then they will take me places, and it's a lot easier. And also you get to see much more about what the place is like and how people are very different in their own local environment to how they are, say, at a conference or another event. So it's very interesting in that regard. But for me, it solved the single traveler issue. I didn't like single travel, but on the other hand, I didn't like being restricted to other people's, because if you go in a group, you've got other issues in that you're not really in charge of where you go or what you do or who you visit. When if you're a lone traveler, you've got all sorts of like options, but it's being a lone traveler is so much more fun when you know people in a place.
So my friend Marie is from Canada, and she just popped up a message privately, and she said she's from Canada, and she said, how did Canada go? And we have another friend that's saying traveling is better with the locals who can show you the true culture of the place. James earlier said that we should all go to England. There's good food there. That he could show.
Well, ironically, actually, he was commenting. He's actually based in San Diego. So
Oh,
So that's
I
kind
agree
of
with that.
oh well.
So I was gonna for Marie's question, I had a blast in Canada. I went to Montreal. I actually went with a really good friend, and we stayed at a bed and breakfast, adorable bed and breakfast, locally owned, homemade food every morning. Traveled around. It was freezing. We went during the winter, so it was freezing cold, but we got to try out some of the local stouts that were amazing. We had an amazing, I wish I knew the brand. I can't shout it out, but it was an amazing peanut butter stout. I like dark, rich brews. One I do drink. I don't drink too often, but dark, rich brews are my favorite. And we got to try a couple of those out in Canada, Montreal. We walked along the river down there where there's a bunch of ice skating rinks. There's, I think, 3 ice skating rinks by the river there. And those who live in Montreal or from Montreal will know what I'm talking about. But it's a cute, quaint, artsy kind of place. A lot of art, little miniature art shops around. So I would suggest, if you ever get a chance, trying it out. Quaint little town in Canada. I had never been to Canada. So, and again, my coworker Marie from Traveling Stories is from Canada. So she gave me some tips of where to visit. But yeah, that's my little interjection with travel.
We have James here saying that he chose his first holiday destination after watching Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which I guess is Petra in Jordan, because that's where the temple is at the end. I don't know. Maybe he was like one of the previous scenes was the one he was what he was thinking about, and also had some other hellos from people. James Prescott, hello.
Hi, James Prescott.
Hey,
he's one of our Twitter friends.
You.
James is a Twitter friend. Hi, James.
And yes, we did have Jordan. So I presume it was Petra that you went to.
Her grandma turns 109. How awesome is that? Congratulations. And then next time you come back, if I'm pronouncing the name right, Mata, we expect you to come back with some tips, okay? Just saying.
Yeah. Someone said their grandma's 109 years old. Who was that?
That was,
what did I miss?
109 was Mata? Is it?
It was. Wow. Happy birthday to her.
Yeah.
109. So Mata, when you
That's
come
beautiful.
back, get some tips out, Ma, because we need it. We want to know what she's doing or has done to extend her life so long. That is remarkable.
She's probably been in isolation.
Mata, has she been featured on the Today Show or any of those television shows, newspapers in your area? Let's see if she can respond. I think it's a she. I hope I'm right.
Yeah, no, it's not showing the picture, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Well, we were saying about trying to keep the show at 30 minutes last time, and we're now about 3 minutes over. Do we want to carry on? Or?
Do we want to shout out what we're doing on Tuesday? I'm very excited about the guest we're bringing on.
Yes. We've got a guest on Tuesday, who is Jen Gilmore, who is the person who runs Abuse Chat. But she's actually she's a fantastic business person and generally very nice person. She's won quite a few awards for like social media and stuff in the non-profit world. So she's going to be our first ever guest on Tuesday at a slightly later time because she can do our normal time, and given that our normal time isn't normal yet, so it will be 1 o'clock Pacific and 9 o'clock UK time on Tuesday. So that still doesn't answer the question of whether we want to stick to half an hour now or do we want to carry on for a little bit. I'll be waiting to find out what Mada's grandmother's secret was.
I love what we've talked about with travel, and I am excited about our chat on Tuesday. April has won. I want to shout out April again because she won an award for producing a show about domestic violence, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. So being able to bring on a guest to talk about that, especially during these times, I'm very excited to be able to open up that discussion on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like talked about this on our own little private messenger chat that people obviously only for the host, but we are quite keen on this show to not shy away from difficult subjects, and we'll also have all the fun stuff as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't want the show to be entirely about domestic violence.
No.
I think it is, especially now, because a number of people who are going to be suffering, both sexes, because of the isolation and the lockdown. It's going to be it's an interesting topic to cover, and I'm glad that Jen will be on the show.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled for the other
stuff. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. It's hard to hear. It looks like there's something about between me and Tim. I'll see if I can't figure that out. I don't know whose side it's on, but so I couldn't get all of that. I will, though, I think, when I watch it. So that's kind of weird. But thank you, Christelle, for mentioning the domestic violence piece that I produced, directed, did all of it. And Jen and I met in social media as well, kind of like how I met you guys. And I loved what she's doing. And I was thinking about her coming up. Back when I started out in domestic violence, I was, 20 years old. And I was down in the trenches, grassroots operation, barely kind of getting by. Back then, police officers, if they helped us, they had to keep that on the DL because they didn't want any backlash. We knew who we could trust and who we couldn't. We didn't want any batterers to get, the shelter or program address or any of those things. And now, I was thinking in the beginning, we were doing the Clothesline Project before it became famous for what it is. And I remember as a journalist covering it after I kind of left the business a bit. And now I look at Jen, people like Jen and yourself, Christelle. We've come so far now because women didn't have this outlet. They weren't able to go to social media. Blogging wasn't around. I know I'm dating myself, guys. So it was, it's pretty amazing to see how women can use social media to kind of do what Jen did. She turned her personal experience into a mission and a message, and she's using social media to get it out there, and she's doing so well. So it's exciting for me to be there in the beginning, so to speak, and now to see all of these women coming forward. And even if they can't do presentations, they can use social media to use their voice and get their message out. So this is really awesome that we're going to have her.
Yeah.
And wait. And Christelle, you have a story too. So I hope you will share some of your story as well.
I do. And my story, I so much want to be one of, there's that moment where you find hope and you step into hope. And there's that moment where you think all is lost. But it's when you think all is lost that we so desperately seek that hope and hope that hope is real. And that's what I'd love to be part of sharing and not negate the sad and the horrible and the whole, but also I just remember not knowing if hope was real. And so I definitely want my message to be, you know what, the stories that I heard where I didn't know if hope was real, it's true, hope is real. And there are stories and there's people who have a story. And if in any way, April, you or I or Jen or Tim can shine a light on that hope and tell people that, you know what, you are powerful. You're powerful. That's what I want my message to be. So thank you, April. Thank you, Tim. I'm going to steer away from the topic really fast before we close. I have a fun question. Are you okay with me asking?
Okay, that seems to be like I asked the question last time, so.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, this is goofy. I got it from Twitter because all those polls that keep going around, what the polls, something like on Twitter, we've all been tagging each other. We all are tagging our best friends on Twitter. But what are your name 6 shows or 6 comedies or 6 movies? Out of one of those Twitter questions, I found something out. And I'm hoping that this will be a little tiny baby discussion before we say goodbye. Mork and Mindy. Do we all know who Mork and Mindy are?
Yeah.
Remember the show Mork and Mindy, April? Okay. Do you know what show it spinned off of? I didn't know this.
I do.
I didn't know.
I did before actually, but
I saw you. Hear it.
I didn't know. Tim, you do know.
Yeah, it was Happy Days.
It was Happy Days.
Yeah, well, I think which one was Mork, which one was Robin Williams, the alien character? Was it? They were in an episode of Happy Days.
See, I don't remember that.
Yeah, well, like nobody remembers Happy Day after Fonz jumped the shark or whatever in that episode, because apparently that's where that expression comes from. Because of the Happy Days, like I think was it 70s or 80s? I mean, I'm obviously not old enough to remember it fully. I was a child, a very young child at the time. Happy Days was on.
I had no idea.
But apparently, like Fonz, who was the cool character, who was like he wasn't really the main character, but he kind of was. He was the cool main character, and there were loads of other characters who I can't remember any of them. But they had one episode where he was on a speedboat and he jumped over a shark, and that became known as when like a television show runs out of ideas. So they had it like you jump in the shark. It's kind of like you run out of like the normal stuff to have, so you get all the really weird, and you do see it with TV shows where they have weird stuff happen. I mean, if aliens start appearing in like a period drama, then they kind of run out of ideas.
What one show do you guys wish could come back? If you could watch it from 60s, 70s, 80s, what one show?
What do you mean come back? As in like redo, or because we have got like box sets and stuff now. I'd actually pick one that you probably never heard of, a British one called Blake 7. It was, what was unique about Blake 7, it was so dark. It's the most dark kind of sci-fi like TV show ever. But when they made it, I mean, I've got all the box set of it, but when they made it, the special effects were so terrible that it's renowned for just terrible, like wonky spaceships and all the rest of it. But the whole thing of having, because they do all of this fight to overthrow the Federation, and they actually succeed at the end of it, and then there's this massive like vacuum afterwards, and the whole universe is in an even worse state than when they overthrew the Federation. So it's and then the last episode they all end up with each other killing each other. So I'd like to see that remade in a modern kind of special budget, like decent budget. Right.
Someone told me about a British series, Tim. Maybe you can. Oh, The Fall Guy. James says The Fall Guy.
Well, he also agreed on Blake 7 as well. Yeah, I think James remembers that. And we got.
Wait. James Prescott said something. I missed it. Knight Rider or the A-Team. Okay. Yeah.
Well, Knight Rider. It's like Knight Rider. Like I remember one episode of Knight Rider when they had two identical. They had the evil car and the other one, and they were like driving towards each other, and like in the end, because the evil one wouldn't backed off, because like that's the only episode I remember Knight Rider in. The A-Team. Well, the A-Team they have remade. So
I remember the song with the A-Team when they all came out, and that was Mr. T, right? Yeah, that was Mr. T. What about Tim Lewis?
I think it's V. I don't think there's a show called V Tim Lewis, but
I'm saying V Tim. Is he talking about?
Yeah, but they have remade V as well, actually, but it got cancelled midway. The V remake. That's where they all lizard-headed people underneath the. It was good. Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
I remember V. April, what would you say? What would you bring back?
Say it again. I'm sorry. I don't know why we're having such an issue communicating here on my
Okay. What one show from 60s, 70s, or 80s would you bring back to the present if you could?
That I would watch from beginning to end. Is that what you said?
Sure. Which show? Any show?
I can't hear anything, guys.
It's okay.
It keeps freezing on this end. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. I need an IT guy. Anybody an IT guy out there? That's supposed to be you,
somebody
Tim.
Put the question in the comments, and then I'll do it.
Who do I want to bring back? I want to bring you. I am such a nerd. I want to bring back Mork and Mindy, if I can say it. I loved those like goofy shows from, were they 70s, 80s? I want to bring back Happy Days. I want to bring back Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah. Yes.
And those are from, I even want to bring back Punky Brewster. April, who's your...
I'll put it on a comment here so that people can...
I'm gonna start sending it like this. Since
she's writing it down. Okay. Let's see if we can read it. What is it?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I like what you said. I like Waltons. I still watch. Shame on me for admitting it. I like Little House on the Prairie. You know, it was funny because as a kid, I wasn't that into it, but I think with age and the was going to feel more drawn to things like that, because that was a time when no one would ever be able to make those shows today and turn them into a success. But there are, you know, also like, what was it from the 90s? Was it 30 something? Did you guys ever watch 30 something?
No, I don't think so. I remember.
I'm not even going to go
there. I think some British TV is appearing on our screen.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I have
nobody remembers 30 something. No, I'm not that old, guys. Come on now. We're pretty close here. Yeah. Well, 30 something. The people, Ken Olin, who directs now This Is Us, he kind of got his start in 30 something.
Okay. Oh,
so
wow.
If you get a chance, look it up, Christelle, if you like that show. It's
I'm writing it down. 30 something. Okay.
It turned out amazing.
Have you watched This Is Us, either of you?
April, I'm a huge fan. Are you kidding? I'm a huge fan. I was like the last episode, I said to my husband, I don't know if I should cry or what. Because it was pretty amazing. It's amazing. You like it?
I actually haven't watched it, but everyone is saying, Christelle, you have to watch it from beginning to end because it's life-changing. It's emotional. It's like real life, but I haven't watched it yet, but everyone's giving it rave reviews. So I think I need to tap into that. Yeah. My son, okay, so my 13-year-old son out of nowhere last year started asking me questions about the 80s. And I thought suddenly he was interested in me. He's like, Mom, what did you used to wear in the 80s? What music were you listening to in the 80s? And I'm thinking, oh, he wants to know about me. No, do you know why he wanted to know?
He's going to an 80s party or something?
A show. A show became very popular. Nothing to do with me. You know what show it was?
Oh,
it was Stranger
Things. Yeah, which I haven't seen, but I've heard of. Everybody's obsessed with it because they're yeah.
It actually pulled me into it, and I actually ended up really liking it.
I remember, Christelle, when you were posting that. Sorry.
I did.
I'm so sorry.
There's a great thing online.
There's a great thing on comedy shows to Americans to see what they make of it. It's brilliant. Okay, great. James, can you share that with us? I'd love to check that out.
We have a hi from Jim, and the last show I was wearing my Atlanta t-shirt, Jim. He's from Atlanta. So you should catch the end of it.
Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Jim. You and your lovely wife.
April, my friend Marie said 30-something was awesome. I posted a watch party on my Facebook, so I'm getting comments over there. My friend Marie
I can't see them on the stream. So, I mean, you could have, your own set.
I'm very savvy with technology. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, I think we need to say 9 o'clock is hard.
Let's go. You guys, I'll see you in the DMs. Thank you for chatting with me. Thank you, viewers, for watching us and answering questions.
Hey guys, hopefully, Tim, you can help me figure out the mess, okay, with the sound. I need some help.
Yeah, I think you need. We got another. I think Tim is from somewhere in New Yorkish. I'm like forgetting, but he loves Dunkin' Donuts. So it must be really hard for him in isolation. Anyway.
No donuts for us.
Well, I like to shout out people because they might catch the end of the stream and then it's like they feel like, oh well, it's so yeah. I hope everybody enjoyed this really poorly planned session. The next one we got a guest in the next one, so
Tuesday, next Tuesday at 9 a.m.
Pennsylvania it comes from. Oh yeah, I knew it was somewhere around there. So
at what time?
9 a.m. Pacific time next Tuesday, and we're diving in deep to
no 1 p.m. Pacific time.
Okay, and if I
9 p.m. UK time.
Oh, 9 p.m. UK. Tim, you tell us.
Yeah, 1 p.m. All right, so the next show is on Tuesday. That's the day after. That's not tomorrow, not the day after. Like Tuesday, and it's 1 p.m. Pacific time.
Thank you.
2 p.m. Mountain time, 3 p.m. Central time, 4 p.m. Eastern time, and 9 p.m. UK time, and 10 p.m. Central European time. And if you're in Asia, then you probably should be in bed. So I can't work out those times. And if you're in Hawaii or somewhere, then yeah, it's probably like 10 in the morning or something like that. So anyway, yes, that's when the next show is on.
Bringing on a special guest talking about domestic violence. April, I saw you.
I just want to say a shout out to someone. It looks like, is it Catalin? They just told me maybe what I need to do. So thank you for chiming in on Facebook. I will try that and see if it does help next time.
Thanks, Kat. I see your message too. Thank you, Kat. Kat's my illustrator. He's awesome. He's actually
we can have him on the show at some point.
Oh, let's have Kat on. Yeah, Kat would be awesome. Very cool. I will see you guys in the DMs. Bye, friends.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, April. Bye, Tim.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.